Hi everyone in Dunvant, I'm Nathan, just to remind you, and I work in Cardiff with Christian unions in the area. And today I wanted to encourage you with 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 1 to 10. It's something that I've been going through with my students and I've been massively encouraged by recently. Sometimes when I read Paul, and maybe you too, it's sometimes quite confusing. He doesn't always fully make sense on first viewing. It's a little bit like putting a different language into Google Translate, and you press the translate button and the English that comes out it's there, but it doesn't always fully make sense to us. That's often my experience with Paul. But I promise you, as you take time to read and study some of these things, there's great gems to be had, great treasures to find. One such has been, for me, 2 Corinthians chapter 5. Verse 1 to 10. This is Paul talking about his earthly tent, his body, his mortal body, and his heavenly home, his eternal place of rest. I don't know in this summer of COVID maybe whether you've been camping. My most vivid memory of camping is on the Gower camp each summer, which was actually very wonderful. Great beds, great fun, lots of fun throughout the week. But the reality of any camping experience is it's damp, there's probably some people snoring, there's the dreaded moment you get nice and snug in your sleeping bag and then suddenly, the bladder hasn't held, you need the toilet, it's going to be cold, it's going to be awful, all that. Camping can be great fun, but it can also be uncomfortable. And this is the context to which I think Paul is writing, that he's saying life in our earthly tent, our mortal bodies, can be great fun, and we believe Jesus has come to give us life and life in all its fullness here and now, but it's also uncomfortable. That passage talks about the groans of this life. In chapter 4 we've heard about how in life we are outwardly wasting away but inwardly being renewed. Life can be great, we can have great joys in life, but we can also have real groaning and struggle. And yet, at the end of the week of the Gower camp, or the end of our camping experience, we get to look forward to that nice warm bed, that nice home-cooked meal, the solid roof over our head. We've got firm foundations rather than the tent pegs. We have something to look forward to. And it's the same for us, that though life is what it is, great joys, but also great groanings, we have something to look forward to. It was the same for the Israelites. Paul knew his Old Testament very, very well and knew that the Israelite people were people who, for 40 years through the wilderness, lived in tents. They were makeshift homes. It was uncomfortable at times. Food was scarce, perhaps, at times. There was dampness at times. It was too hot at times. All those things. But they had something to look forward to. The temporary, the tent, would one day be a firm foundation, a home in the promised land. What great hope they had, what great hope we have. But in the here and now, what are we to hold on to? We know Christ has died for us and given himself for us, that we may have life and life in all its fullness, but that's something we know. What has God done for us in the here and now? What do we have to hold on to in the camping experience, as it were? Well, verse 5 talks about him giving us his Spirit as a guarantee, a deposit guaranteeing what is to come. So as we live in our earthly tents today, we know that God has not only given his life through Christ on the cross, has given his life so we may be righteous, white as snow, but we also have his Spirit with us in the here and now. That will guarantee what's to come. You don't put a deposit on a house or a car unless you are committed to that house or car. And God has put his Spirit in us as a deposit guaranteeing, being committed to us. So be encouraged that as you live in your earthly tent and it's damp and it's sometimes miserable, but there's sometimes some great joys. There's a greater joy to come. And what does Paul say? Finally, this should give us confidence. This should make us breathe a sigh of relief today. That the camping experience may be tough. It may not be all that clean. It may not be all that easy. Maybe we're experiencing family issues or financial worries or all these things. Or maybe life's great. But ultimately, our home is yet to come. And praise God, He's given us His Spirit as a deposit, a confirmed deposit, a committed deposit, guaranteeing that solid foundation, that warm bed, that heavenly eternal home.